And I think that's an excellent pivot point to talking about the new interim head coach of the Chicago Bears in Thomas Brown. Just listening to him talk, one thing I have to highlight because it's something that we've been asking since I don't even know for an offensive perspective. What is the identity of this team supposed to look like? And Luke Getsy, he had a philosophy. They just didn't end up sticking with it, given whether it was personnel issues, quarterback play, whatever it was. That he had an idea, it just didn't stick to it. Thomas Brown, team's identity, what he wants. He was quoted as saying, "Football is a violent game and rewards those who play the game violently." I don't know how a single Bears fan hears that and doesn't just think, "Fuck yeah, let's go."
Listen,
go
ahead, Naz.
I'm sorry, Frank. Yeah, I'm all in. Let's go. 5 games, 5 or die. Here we go. I'm so pumped. Just because I do feel like this guy, I don't know if he's a head coach, but this is clearly someone you want in the building. Like, he has got that command of the room. He's got that charisma. It was a great presser by him. I was impressed. Frank?
I was extremely impressed as well. And what I was going to say was, I think of, since Lovey being gone, just people at pressers that gave you that head coach feel. I don't know if anyone was better than Thomas Brown. Lovey was Lovey. He was the best coach of our lifetimes. It wasn't close as it stands, but he just
the connection? What's the similar theme between Lovie Smith and Thomas Brown and the head coaches we've had in between? Is there maybe something in there?
Are you insinuating it's?
I'm not insinuating. I personally would never insinuate anything. I'm just wondering.
Are you saying black coaches are better than white coaches, Jack?
Even though Lovey was the whitest sounding coach we've had all
no, Tressman, he's Canadian white. That was a different type of.
He was goofy. Yeah. I don't even think he was white. As a white man, I take disrespect to being associated.
No, listen, he was impressive, man, and really ever since the promotion to OC, when we got to hear him speak more. My only I know we're in homer mode right now after hearing him talk and everything, but one of my questions was like, what the fuck did Waldron say in these interviews that got it over this guy? Like, he never spoke that well. Obviously, he didn't fucking call plays that well either. So, like, what was it that stuck with them? They're like, yup, he's our dude. Because Thomas Brown, he commands the room. What was the word that you used earlier, Naz? Like, crowd control? You said something that Kevin Warren brought. Did you use the word crowd control? I forgot what you used, but just that like commanding the room ability, that like when I talk, you listen. He has this like confidence to him, this ability to speak very clearly, very to the point, very pointed, very intentional with his talk. Like now, if he starts to lose, maybe some coach talk will come out more. We've seen that in multiple places, but as it stands, we've got none of that. Like he's impressive, man. It's hard to not be impressed with the guy.
A couple things. So number one, Frank, to maybe attempt to answer your question, because it's a question we've had since Thomas Brown got hired as OC. Like how did this happen? Like how did Shane Waldron get the job over Thomas Brown? Like we just didn't. It just doesn't make sense. But then you hear the reports of the Bears being resistant to more quote unquote alpha personalities, people to usurp the power from Matt Eberflus. He wanted to be the voice in that locker room. And that kind of seemed like that was the structure on down, with Thomas Brown not even talking with Caleb as the passing game coordinator. Everything was running through same thing. Shane Waldron.
They're both unemployed. I get it.
Right. Same thing. Where like even Chris Morgan, who is the offensive line coach, who got the stamp promotion of running game coordinator, but all of the running game coordinator stuff was still going through Shane Waldron. So it seems like what they were doing was just having one voice for each segment of the team, which I don't necessarily know if that's the best way to do it. Teams probably do their things their own way, whatever. But the fact that they didn't interview Jim Harbaugh. They didn't attempt to trade for Sean Payton. Like that type of stuff, the alpha personality stuff kind of lines up with things that we've heard. So maybe there's your explanation of why they decided to go with somebody like Shane Waldron over a guy like Thomas Brown, who maybe Matt Eberflus saw as not like a threat to him, but just not the type of personality that he wanted underneath him.
Nah, I mean, to me, I think you hit it on the head. I think it is. If this scenario is correct, it would be a threat. There's no way he's that dumb. Like, he knew he was on the hot seat. He knew that year 3, you don't win these ball games. You've done a lot of fucking losing, and we can make the excuses. Excuses are gone now. We got a better quarterback. We got the weapons. Things are here. Your defense is in place. You've got to develop guys for 2 years now, and it just was not working. So he had to have known. And maybe it was just as simple as that. It was just that he knew that maybe he'd get the full year if he goes with Waldron, who is softer spoken. I don't think that he thought he would be that inept at his job, but just like you mentioned, in terms of alpha, you bring in Thomas Brown, that hot seat's hot probably after like week 2 or 3, because I think he would add the offense looking a lot more like this in those first couple weeks versus than what we saw.
I mean, you could look at it from the perspective of if he hires Thomas Brown as OC, he's still head coach right now.
That's true. But it's, you know what though? Now that's such a fucking good point, dude, because that's what bothers me. No, I'm dead ass serious. That's what bothers me about even that mindset, because we're talking about it like that's the normal thing to do because it happens so often, but it's almost like ass backwards. It's one of those weird things. Like, do you remember after the Jordan 10, what was that called? The 30 for 30, the documentary that came out, the 10-part series, where it was like they kept, what was it called?
Last Dance.
The Last Dance. And Jerry Krause just like, they brought up these interviews where he just like needed the validation. He needed it was all me. Dude, you hired the right guys. That should be more than enough for you. You did your job very well. Why then do you feel the need to, you know what I'm saying? It's almost that same sort of mold where like Eberflus, I can't have the guy underneath me who would probably do better because he's at alpha. You're right. He would still be employed. But that train of thought, it trickles down. Because the one thing that me, Jack, you have said for years, why, when you're on the hot seat, why are you pulling your guys off on 3rd and 13? Why are you not being ultra? I'd rather my hot seat coach be ultra fucking aggressive and get burnt because he's going for it versus be super conservative because you're going to lose either way. At least go for it. You know what I mean? Like I've used this example in the past, and I think it's a really good one, or this sort of analogy. It's like boxing. Like say me and Nas are boxing, and he's beating the dog shit out of me. If I'm professional enough, I know how to like weave and go and make it to 12 rounds because that's what good veterans do. But I would rather, as that veteran, go in there and just go balls to the walls. I may knock Nas out now, but I have no chance of doing that if I just play defense for 12 full rounds because I'm getting my ass kicked. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, just go for it, man. You're losing anyway. What the hell is the difference? Like, it's yeah. So that's you're right, Nas. I'm sorry, I went on a rant, but it triggered a thought in me why I fucking hate that guy.
It's the same kind of mentality that we've seen with Chicago Bears head coaches these last forever. Like it's the same thing. It's
yeah.
These guys need to be the smartest guys in the room, and the egos just get in the way. And I think that was a huge thing with Matt Eberflus, where you hear DJ Moore, Jalen Johnson talk about it. The thing they're looking for in their next head coach is accountability, and that was the first thing Thomas Brown did, where he said, "Yeah, I do not escape any criticism of what has happened these last 3 weeks that I've been involved as OC. Like, it's on me too. It's not just on Coach Eberflus. Now that he's got, like, it was on me as well." And it's just like, it's that simple. Like, you talk about how if he had just hired Thomas Brown as OC, if he had just said after that Washington game, yeah, I fucked up, that I should have called the timeout. Tyreek Stevenson was not set. We were not ready to go. I was looking at certain things. I missed it. That's on me. If he had just done that, this team is probably still together. They probably, I don't know if they win that Cardinals game. The Cardinals are better than I think we are giving them credit for, but they definitely don't score 3 points against the New England Patriots, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that probably doesn't happen. And Matt Eberflus is for sure still employed at this point. If he had just the way that he just kept doubling down on those after games mistakes where, in that Packers game, did you consider maybe getting Cairo on the hash that he prefers? No, we liked our process. We thought it was good.
15 yards didn't matter.
Can I zag a little bit here?
Zag as much as you want.
I'm gonna zag.
Please.
I don't think it's accountability. I think it's part of it, but I really think it has to do with being competent.
I think
When you
I
are
think saying accountable is the
routinely
nice way to say it.
yeah, like when you're routinely incompetent in very crucial situations where we're 5-21 in one possession games. Meanwhile, the Vikings under Kevin O'Connell are like 23-10. Like, so, and I'm not even asking for that because ultimately it's a crapshoot. If you watch Vikings
Right.
games, Kevin O'Connell has gotten lucky so many times at the end of those games. It's crazy. So, like, I'm just asking to be like 500. Like, make it a coin flip for me, please. But like, you're both married. You both have a partner. Like that part where you mess up and they go, well, if you had just told me from the beginning, I wouldn't have gotten this mad. It's an utter lie. If I had told you I made that mistake right away, you would still be just as mad as you are right now. If I was just competent enough to not make that mistake at all, then you wouldn't be mad at me. And that is exactly what the actual ultimate issue is with it. It's being incompetent and then being unaccountable for the incompetency.
Yeah,
is my take on it.
The doubling down, the triplet, and Jalen Johnson mentioned it too. He's like, I've done 5 years of losing. Like I'm so like he's so sick of this, and for Eberflus to come in and just be like, we just got to keep staying together. It's like, dude, like cut the bullshit. Like these are professional athletes. They don't need to be coddled. Like he will be a great college head coach at like fucking Rutgers or something like that. Like go to college, go enjoy it. He is not a head coach in the NFL, and players see through that nonsense. And it's so unfortunate because it was so predictable that this is, I mean, not necessarily that he'd be fired midway through because it has never happened. Realistically, he should have been fired last year during the season, if we're being honest. It was as soon as that announcement that he was being retained came through, it was just like we all had this dread that this is kind of where this was going to lead to, and we were hoping we'd be wrong. And unfortunately, it is the case. Now we have an opportunity with Thomas Brown. One thing I want to make very clear to people who are just making the analogy for the sake of it, he is not Antonio Pierce. That comparison, just stop. It's not even close. Like Antonio Pierce, what was he, like a linebackers coach that was just promoted to interim head coach and then just
Dude, it is crazy when you look at where Antonio Pierce has failed as a coach. He's pretty much banned from college football, like because he can't recruit for over the next decade. And then he also coached high school at Long Beach Poly and had to leave that job, like a historically very successful high school team in Southern California, had to leave that team because he was that bad of a coach. Like this dude it's not even comparable. This is not even the same conversation.
No.
It's completely different.
And we've already, again, it may not work out for him as a head coach here or if he were to be hired elsewhere, but we've already seen the value add of Thomas Brown. And again, even if that's just baseline competency versus what we've had, and it's like it's fool's gold for us in the moment, so fucking be it. But again, we see that he's good at something in the NFL. Anyone who's saying that it's Antonio Pierce is just scared of the interim thing. But again, I know we don't want to get too deep today, but again, like I don't even want to look back at the past with that. Those situations are so unique and so different. The Colts fans are probably still kicking themselves that they kept Pagano instead of hiring Arians after that. Like 100%.
Right here. I mean, that's a completely different situation.
No,
obviously,
it is.
with Pagano,
but they all are.
You can't. This one is, I would say, even more unique than what's like. Let's say you compare it in season to what's going on with the Jets. Like Thomas Brown, he was an assistant head coach with Sean McVay, which I don't know if either of you heard Sean McVay talking about Thomas Brown just recently when asked about his promotion to interim head coach. I mean, like Sean McVay is probably, if not the most respected head coach right now, he's at least top 3, right? Top 5. The way that he talked about Thomas Brown, I think should just fill Bears fans with so much hope. And again, it's 5 games. Ideally, I think we all would have liked this if it was going to happen, maybe happen a little bit even sooner. See what it looks like, give him a little more time. But I think it's a great opportunity for him to show what he's got as head coach. It definitely is, hopefully, I think we should all be saying hopefully it makes the decision even more difficult for Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren. Hopefully he gives them a reason to truly consider him as a head coach. Like there's a chance he absolutely flames out as head coach, right? He's not calling plays from the sidelines. He's calling, or excuse me, from the booth. He's calling it from the sidelines. He's going to be more involved. Obviously, he let us know that Eric Washington is going to be running the defense. He said he's not a micromanager. It sounds like he's just going to focus on offense, which, take it or leave it. It's just, he was the passing game coordinator a month ago, and now he's the interim head coach. Like it's so crazy how this has happened so fast. Part of it is unfair to him just because of what he's now being asked to do. But if we've already seen the offense buy in, if the defense buys in as well, I think that's a huge rubber stamp on what it means for him to be their head coach.